I define myself as a translational researcher in immunological human diseases with more than 2 decades of experience in 3 granted patents and having a penchant for innovation, technology development, and drug discovery. I work as an associate professor at the Department of Molecular and Human Genetics at Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi. So, if I speak to you about my the early life, and if you want to know about what my education profile was, so my father was a PCS officer who has retired as a Joint Commissioner of Trade Tax, and my mom was a homemaker but had a passion for mathematics. And my childhood was quite simple, centered majorly around studies, my 3 siblings, and my parents. In fact, our entire household, it vibrated on theme of education as the first priority, and you would be surprised to know that these stories that were narrated in the house, especially by inspirational stories which were woven around people who excelled in studies and who earned positions of repute and excellence. 24/7 we were trying to, given this feeling that yes, if you study, then it is good. If you don't study, you're a waste. So being not focused on the studies was actually never an option in our house. And so all siblings and myself, we did quite well in our academics, and 3 of my siblings, they went ahead and they got gold medal in their either at the UG or PG level, and now they're serving at top bureaucratic positions in academics. I had some other interests too, so which included literary writing, and I also acted in dramas, debate competitions, public speaking, and a lot of daydreaming. And if I have to describe myself as a child, then I was a shy child unless I was on the stage. And, I would weave an entire universe of my own in lucid dreaming. And that dream, I think I'll put myself as the teacher's favorite and imagine myself to be an achiever for a superlative degree. So when I think back, I think retrospectively, when I introspect all that, I think that was a time when actually the seeds of ambitions were sown in me. And for the friends, I didn't have many friends at school and it didn't matter much because my mom was a great listener, and she would be all ears to my real and even the fabricated stories, and also my confidence. So I think that was a healthy habit that my mom had inculcated in us, and we were happy emptying ourselves out, and she would also get a track of what was going in our life. And my education, because my father was in a transferable job, so I completed my schooling in 8 different schools, because every 3 years you had to get transfer and you had to shift to cities, and then I had to change schools. And so I had studied in 8 different schools, done my UG, PG, and PhD from different institutions in different cities. So I've traveled a lot for education. I completed my graduation at BHU in biological sciences, and I have done my PG in biochemistry and biotechnology from Pantnagar University, Govind Vallabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology. And then I went ahead to earn my PhD degree in immunology from Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow, from the Department of Immunology. And for my PhD, I worked in autoimmune diseases. And at the end, when I finished and submitted my PhD, by the time I had an offer letter from National Institute of Health in Bethesda, USA, to pursue my postdoctoral position, postdoctoral research work, which I did on autoimmune disease known as SLE. And I was instrumental in developing an animal model for the disease too. So I was there for around 4 years. And my research efforts at NIH led to publication in leading immunology journals and also a development of an SLE model in pedigreed outbred rabbits. And then I returned to India in 2006, joined my current department of molecular human genetics as an assistant professor and PhD. My father was a pathbreaker because the reason he was putting so much impetus on education was he came up from a very simple background, and as my grandparents were farmers, they had farming land, and so he was from a very small village. So he actually worked his way up against all odds, and he went and competed and studied outside, and he became a PCS officer. So he knew that in order to give quality to the life and make a better living, education is the key. So this is what he learned, and he then was very, very careful in passing it down to us, so that, because that was the only way he learned that to excel in life is through education. So I think that was the reason he was overdoing it for us. So nobody was there in academics before me. Primary pillars of my life were my parents. But the personal influences were majorly from my parents in the beginning. So she was the one who infused a very strong value system. I think that characterizes me as a person even today. My father was a very strenuous supporter of gender equity, girl education, employment, and financial independence. I think he was the one who actually fanned the fire within me to dream big and become ambitious for achieving the goals in career and life. But I would also like to add that my one of my primary teachers, I'm sure she would not be remembering me, but I have remembered her all through my life, and I offer my gratitude to her every day, Miss Vinita Sarkar. She was my primary school teacher, and I find that she was the one who was actually helpful in instilling in me the interest for studies. And she also taught me technique to study independently and not depend on others to, even my formative years as well. So that helped me grow as a student. And later growing up, I think my husband, I will definitely give him a lot of, he definitely paved my way quite smoothly, because he's actually a principal scientist in ICR, and I call him as a friend husband, and he's also been my philosopher guide. He actually helped me greatly to evolve my personality and more so my confidence. And particularly with no mentor over here, his ideas on professional handling of the matters had been a great gainer for me. So I will definitely be thankful to him for that. And apart from that, my siblings, my sister Shalaja and two brothers, Devrat and Skan, then also my younger uncles, Satish, Chachaji, they stand by me with everything. I mean, through my every thick and thick, and with their unconditional love and support. And so I think they're true blessings. My friends also, like Dr. Satya and Dr. Swasti from my PGI days, SGPGI days, and doing my PhD. They and another friend who is in my same university, Dr. Manisha. So these are also, I consider, very important influences in the personal life who have actually helped me evolve. When it comes to my professional life, uh, I would really owe a lot of gratitude to my postdoc mentor, Dr. Rose Mage, who was the chief of the Laboratory of Immunology in NIAH. And when I joined the postdoc position after my postdoc, I had a small daughter of 3 years old, and I was all by myself. So working in a scientific lab would have, actually there are no limits of time. No, you can work throughout. There's no limit of time. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It depends very much on how your experiments are running and how long you have to stay in the lab. But she made my life very easy by considering that I was a single mother at the time, because my husband had to return back because he was already in a job. So considering that I was a mother who was taking care of a 3-year-old child, she allowed me to maintain regular timings. So, and besides, she also trained me in various modern day tools of research and helped me how to formalize quality research questions. So she was the actual person who trained me like a true mentor. And I think the story would go not so well if I don't mention Professor S.K. Garg. When I was doing my master's, Professor S.K. Garg, I took a paper of immunology from his college, and he had an exemplary style of teaching. And for a paper known as immunology, which was at the time also very few institutions were offering it, that paper. Even today, it's a cutting edge subject, but very few institutions in the country offer that paper. So he was the one who was actually able to enkindle the fervor for immunology in me, to the extent that I made up my mind that I would do my PhD only in immunology. So that's how I ended up getting placed or registered in PhD in SGPGI. There wasn't one. I think there were a lot of failures. Lot of failures. Uh, I think right from growing up, from after my schooling, I was a medical aspirant. And at the time, my father also thought that for girls, it's a very good job. If you get, clear your medical, then you are very safe. So he was wanting to become assured about that, my job security and all. So that I didn't do, I mean, I didn't have that, strong feeling for medical, but because my father was the one who was, guiding and thinking for me. So I attempted twice, but failed. So again, this journey of failure went on through my life. The other failures, which or challenges, I would rather say, was that every 3 years we had to transfer from our school. We lost our friends, and when we ended up in a new school, we would end up a month before the half release were going to start. So all through we had to cover up all the work that was already done in the class in our absence, and then always taking up the challenge to be coming up in good position, in good rank in the school as well, because my father would not be pleased with that. So all through that, I think that helped me develop and take up challenges. I kind of became more used to taking up challenges. But the major challenge that I would say in my career, or in my in my journey, was when I went to do my postdoc. My husband initially accompanied me. He took a leave from his job, but he couldn't stay there for long because he was already in a permanent job back here as a scientist. So I insisted I would stay. And although he asked me that he would take my daughter back home because it was difficult for me to manage my own high pressure postdoctoral work and also a 3-year-old. But at that time, I just didn't feel comfortable sending my daughter. So that was the biggest challenge that I took. So I remember I had to tune my work around her daycare timings and take care of her, growing up, her requirements of food, medical. I had to go through 2 surgeries for her as well at the time, which I did all by myself. At the same time, also delivering the best I could, because in NIH, if you do not do perform well, they will not have kindness to let you. So year after year, my assessments, I will make sure that my assessments will be excellent. So in order to do that, I was actually working, again giving my 200%. So that was the challenge that I felt that life would have been made simpler if I didn't have to face that. But yet that made me bolder and stronger. See, when I returned back to India, I had this job, the current job that I am in. I took up this job as an assistant professor, an early stage position. And this department was a newly incepted department by some senior faculty of this university, some senior scientists of this university. So they had created this department. And we were 5 faculties who were recruited in this. And 4 of us were direct students of those senior scientists who had actually created this department. So I was the only outsider. It would not have been relevant if the things were, given equally on the platter. But when I began my professional journey here in this department, I clearly saw that there was a very clear-cut, distinct support that the other 4 colleagues enjoyed from their mentors, who helped them guide, who helped put recommendations for their name, who also, because, at the beginning of the career, you need a lot of mentoring, you need a lot of guidance. You are not sure in what direction you need to go. So that went on for, quite some months and an year or so, I can say. So I kind of felt very depressed, or I felt that I wish I also had somebody to guide me. So that was the tough time that I said was in the beginning. So I had to learn everything by myself. How to write a project, how to submit a project, how to network with the scientific people, how, if I want to organize a conference, who do you go and talk to. Even when I wanted to file a patent, there was nobody around who could tell me what are the steps, that because filing a patent, now I have learned through all these years, I can, I have also initiated a paper of an IPR in my department. so that I can sensitize the students who pass out from this place, so they know where to start from. But I didn't have that kind of background, nor was there anybody to support me. So that, so I miss that mentorship and support and guidance. But that actually built in me the spirit to work harder for myself, and I was determined to create a niche with my own dedicated and sincere efforts. And the now standing here today, I feel positive experience from all that was that. And this is what I would also like to pass on to the younger faculties, younger colleagues, that if you work with all zeal, sincerity and determination, success finds you. So this is, you only have to just keep on, you don't have to bother about a lack of any support. As I mentioned that Professor S.K. Garg, I when I took up this paper, that paper I had to take to just finish up my, the credits, required credits. So that was the original idea, to go and take that paper. And he was a professor in veterinary college, and I was in College of Basic Sciences and Humanities. So to fill up these credits required, that was one paper which was fitting into my timetable, that I had a free timetable, and that's where I could go and take that paper. So just to fill up that gap, I went. But that completely changed my, I think the journey, that is the foundation stone. Professor S.K. Garg, I met over there, and he was the person who had such a, exemplary style of teaching, that he would make such complicated concepts so simplified, and then he would weave a story, and we would all imagine, and he create a 3D picture in front of us, that this is how it is going, this is how the immune cells are interacting with the pathogen, and now the pathogen will encounter, and then immune cells will engulf it. So he made it very story like, and that was very fascinating to me. So I think I already may be having some genetics for immunology, some passion for immunology, which would be, seated in me. And he was the one who actually enkindled that. And I was so fascinated by the subject that's how I went and decided that if I have to do some higher studies or some postdoctoral studies or even research, I will do it in the area of immunology. So even till these days, it fascinates me, and there's so much new to learn in this subject. I would say that I never had a doubt that immunology was a cutting edge subject. And even before COVID, in my lab, many of collaborators and the students from different collaborators, they collaborate with me because their students want to get some immunological work attached to their thesis work, because if they want to go for postdoctoral positions in the US or in European countries, the people who have a background of immunology, they get absorbed or accepted more. So that's the trend. So I wasn't, ever doubtful about the importance of immunology. Although in India, we still have to bring that up. And that's what I'm doing also, because I'm an elected member of the Indian Immunology Society. I'll talk to you about that later. So that's also my responsibility as a member of EC, that I try to, disseminate this information and the importance of immunology. So at the time of COVID, I can say it was only a validation of the fact that I always believed in, because immunology was at the base of major pathologies. All the infectious disease, they all emanate because of immunological responses. The autoimmune diseases all emanate because of the immunological responses. So you talk about any disease, immunology touches it, because cancer, the immunotherapies are considered to be the best therapies. So immunology and its subject, I think if you talk about any human disease, it will find some role. Currently, I'm actually working as to develop a drug for immunomodulation of an autoimmune disease known as SLE, and that drug is actually based on mesenchymal stem cells based conditioned media. So I'll talk to you later when I am more close to publication of that, because we have some very interesting results. So there's a lot of fascinating things that you can do and contribute in the area of medical. So that way my father feels very satisfied that even if I didn't make directly as a medical person or clinician, I still continue to contribute in the medical field through development of formulations and some drugs or drug candidates, which definitely need to be tested a lot more before it makes it to the bed. I'll give you a little bit background about that work. One of my research focus is on identifying the defective innate immune responses which are seen in the low birth weight newborns. And the low birth weight newborns project, it's a very ambitious project, very close to my heart, because I'll give you a global perspective. The low birth weight, in fact, the leading cause of human death worldwide in the low income countries happens to be the low birth weight newborns and the problems associated with the innate immunity of the low birth weight. And if you take the complete globe, it's the fifth leading cause, according to WHO 2019 data and stats. Now, the India and our country, it shares about 30% of the global burden of the low birth weight newborns mortality. And hence, for the last 15 years, my research efforts have been focused on delineating the compromised immune mechanisms, which include the process of netosis. And I aim to, develop something based on the information that can help improve the survival. So our efforts of the last 15 years have been towards, have culminated in form of a formulation that has shown to increase the efficiency of this immune process known as netosis, and has been recognized. And only last month, we got the patent granted for this. Now, netosis, I know many people would not be aware of. So to that, I only would add a line about netosis, that this is a recently discovered immune process, which has been now found to be at the base of, been established to be at the base of the pathology that was seen in COVID. It was a ardent killer. The major widespread pathology that we saw in COVID was driven because of netosis. Other than that, it forms the base in many inflammatory and autoimmune diseases as well. So having this formulation, and now we are in talk with companies who are keen on, taking it to the, we're looking for industry partners, but in talk with some of them, and they show a lot of interest in them. In fact, I had a talk with the Minister for Science and Technology sometimes back when he was here in BA Tele Digital Health Pilot Program, of which I'm a coordinator. So I spoke to him. So he was also impressed. And so now my idea is to take it further and do what I can do, conduct all the required studies, the regulatory studies, and develop this formulation so that it can actually reach the clinics. So this is what I'm feeling very satisfied about, and I'll be more satisfied on the day it makes it to that clinic. It will be dishonest to say no, I have, because simply being a woman, I was thought of as, I will not be able to pinpoint instances, but this has been a general flow and a general feeling which I've found, that being a woman, I was many a times not given the leadership positions, which I could have easily made. And they were given to some of my male colleagues, which, like I will say, but the committee meetings, and then in a committee, small committee, for example, my lab is, doing a lot of flow cytometry work. So the flow cytometer is a very big instrument and is involved as, a very important tool in immunology studies. So when it was housed over here in central facilities, so the entire Science Institute knew that my lab was the primary user of that. And there were other labs which made use of that. But when it came to making coordinators, I was very comfortable and conveniently sidelined. And somebody else who was not that, well acquainted with the technology was given the chairperson's position on that. So things like this happen. And then, as I said, that I'm also a part of the executive committee of Indian Immunology Society. So thankfully, I have a very good group of women friends, and we here together with each other. And so I don't want to pinpoint things because this video would go public. So, but yes, I have experienced. I definitely feel belittled at the occasion, at the moment when it happens. But I think I'm very fortunate to have found a group of friends, female colleagues. And I think they're a blessing because all of them are very strong females doing exceptionally good in their academics or in the other professional activities there. And then through them, I always feel that, yes, we talk about it. And then, and you know what, when I went to Boston, where I was invited for a talk at a meeting in FOSIS, that is a Federation of Clinical Immunology Societies. So there, after my talk, the next day, the program was that 7 to 8 there will be coffee with women scientists. So because they wanted to discuss the problems which were associated with women scientists. So I and some of my friends, they made sure that we would go there, and we were there in the beginning. And it was really eye-opening to see that many chairs, many deans, many directors were sharing experiences which were so similar to what I had felt. So I think it's doesn't have to be in the boundaries of a nation. The gender biases with women is worldwide. And when Betty Diamond, she's a chief worker in SL, because I work in the area of SL issues. So I consider her as my guru, because when I was at NIH, my research work actually emanated from her paper, and I took up some cues from her and then developed my own. So I consider her as my SLE guru, and I look up and read her papers quite a lot. So I met her, and then she was there. I met her after my postdoctoral years, after several years. But when I saw her, she was talking about what kind of differences and biases, having lesser salary than her colleagues. So this was also common. So, I think being together with the women community, learning with each other's experiences gives you a strength that, yes, this is something to be dealt with, not something to be feeling depressed with. You know, I think I define myself as a scientist who has a strong motto for science for society. And this is something even my lab vibrates on, that we pick up only those kind of research questions which will end up in some kind of technology or product development which have the capacity or the ability to touch human life. So I'll answer your question about women, but this part, I think I must convey to you that the societal outreach is something that I really take very seriously. So first thing that I would like to do is that all the technology that I bring forth, it is my responsibility that after I develop an IP, or if I get a patent granted on it, it is my responsibility to ensure that it doesn't just stop over here. It finishes up the process, which actually is a tougher process than getting it granted. So that is where our focus is at the moment, because last month we have got 2 patents granted. So that's our next step. For the women, when in the beginning of the career, my used to define that myself as a successful person if I could make a publication accepted in a journal, or if I was successful in getting a grant or from a funding agency. To me, it was a big parameter of success when I began my career. But over all these years, I think the definition or the meaning of success has changed in a way that I now feel that today, having the capacity to enable other women or other people get their dreams come true gives me the sense of success. I am actually a member on the National Expert Committee on a flagship program of Department of Science and Technology of Ministry of Science, known as the Women Scientist A program, Women Scientist Scheme. Now, this program is actually themed around bringing the women who have a big career breaks in their life back into the mainstream science. Mostly women who do the PhD, but then they're married or they have child, and because of that, they're not able to pursue their career, or they don't find good faculty position, so they are out of job. So the scheme was actually developed by DST to bring such women who are deserving and ease them up to enter into the mainstream. So I think I feel very happy because I am a part of that. And when I see the presentations, I see that there's so many deserving women out there. And when the decision is made in their favor, to which I also contribute, so that they get, at least 5 years fellowship, and in that 5 years fellowship, they get enough fund support to run their research work. And that gives them a big window to find some more opportunities for their job. So this is how I feel satisfied in helping my young women colleagues to get into the job or get a better scientific platform. There are many ways. There is no ending to learning the sustainable way of life. So, but these are things which have been in my practice for quite some time. That's not that something I started early. First thing, that I always carry my own bottle of water if I travel, or even when I come to my office, or any place that I travel. If I take, a trip, I always carry my own bottle so that I avoid buying any more bottles and adding more to the plastic load. And other thing that I'm very fascinated about is that my own kitchen garden. So I grow a lot of herbs, which I use a decoction in the morning, and I grow my own herbs without pesticides. I grow giloy, I grow ashwagandha, kalmeg, and lemongrass, tulsi. And so all through the COVID pandemic, I didn't have to buy anything outside from my, I bought them from my own, kitchen garden, took them from my own kitchen garden and did all that karha work from my own farm. And I also grow small vegetables like spinach, tomatoes, okra, mint, coriander. And I think they're enough, they produces enough for a family of four. My husband is a scientist from agriculture. He's actually a vegetable specialist. So we use these without pesticides. We don't buy it from the market because there are loads of pesticides on that. But through this, I think I contribute a bit in making the environment. And one recent development is that I was a meat eater from a childhood, and the fact today is that the production of meat is also considered to be one of the biggest contributors in the climate change and the pollution of landscapes and waterways. I turned vegetarian, although it was not because of the sustainability or because of the climate change. I turned vegetarian for entirely different reasons. But now I try to take the advantage of the fact that I don't eat, and I help in reducing the impact of the meat industry on the earth. So that's something I just gained. And yes, I don't waste food. I don't remember. I'm a foodie from the beginning, so that could also be reason I never have ever wasted food in my life. I don't remember leaving anything on the platter. So I think these are the ways, small ways I think I'll help in. Based on my own journey, I always put this out to the younger self. I'm talking about females, of course, that a smooth sea doesn't produce a skilled sailor. So if you are to be skilled in the art that you are professionally associated with, don't be afraid of the waves. They come only to molden you. They come only to, build your personality and give you, more experiences, which are actually helping you in growing better. So this is the one line it has. I think it has a deep meaning. Just don't worry about it. You just focus on doing and working effectively with all your sincerity. You will surely make it to the shore if you keep your efforts persistent.